You are watching Co-op for Two. I'm Jesse, and this is episode 12 of our Legacy of Dragonholt playthrough of the entire campaign. This might be the last episode. We at the end of the previous episode. The Masquerade Ball had just begun, and we were instructed to get out this booklet, Paper Faces. It's the longest of all the quests. In fact, it's quite a bit longer than any other quest or village day, so this could take us some time to get through. Might be split into multiple sessions. You can see in the picture there's two people in the masquerade. One of them presumably is the last remaining daughter of the Fairfax nobles of Dragonholt. And we've got some clues in the previous day that there might be two families vying for her hand, the Cunninghams and the Belmonts, and we've made some notes about those two families. One are merchants, the Cunninghams, and the others are the loyal defenders of the realm, the Belmonts. And we think they both might be trying to marry in. And then we've got the evil uncle named Carrick or something like that. I do note that when you look at here, there's two masks on either side. There's the moon mask that Celeste gave us a mask for us to wear. Maybe that's us. And then there's another mask here that I don't know. I guess they're both moons. One is white, one is dark. There's a little dragon up there, dragon here. These are the two dragons at the entrance to Dragonholt Village. We've got full stamina, one healing potion, one experience which we can use to buy ourselves a skill if we need it. This feels like it might not be a fighting quest, like we might need our social skills. But let's open it up and start our play. Okay. Enjoying the party. The first act of this quest represents the Masquerade Ball, a lavish social event hosted by Lady Regina Fairfax for the villagers of Dragonholt and the nobles of Dragonholt, Rostham, and Haverford counties to mingle without their identities or social standing interfering. During this first act, if playing with two or more heroes, which we're not, the decisions you make do not exhaust your activation tokens. We recommend discussing your options and making decisions as a group. Okay, so there's going to be two halves to this. They don't affect us because we're single playing. An awning has been erected outside the manor's front door, curtained off to transform the space into a foyer. A human woman in black and white livery, wearing a black domino mask, stands before the door, and she bows to you as you arrive. "Welcome," she says. "The Countess requests that you please don your mask before you enter." She gestures to one side, where a curtain hangs to provide some privacy. If you did not bring a mask, her ladyship has provided several for you to use. You step behind the curtain and find several white domino masks, similar to the servants, in a variety of sizes. So we can don the crescent moon mask, if we have that, which we do, and we mark a story, or we can don the mask of green leaves or the black dragon mask. We didn't find any of those. All right, so we're wearing the moon mask. At least we got one mask. So we mark R7 and read 1357. And let me just show you this. Here's the printed paper for this mission. Remember, these are from BGG, and they mirror these on the back of each booklet. So here's the back of this one. This one looks different than the others we've seen. It's got a time chart, but then it's got two tracks. It looks like a peace progress and a war progress track. So maybe this will be a branching story. We can they'll either get to peace or get to war. Okay, 1357. You adjust your mask and step through the door into the manor's grand hall. Lanterns have been strung from colored ropes above you, giving the space a brightness and light you've seldom seen even in daylight. Excited guests in masks of all shapes and sizes crowd the floor, already overflowing, into the tables set aside for food and relaxation. Several liveried staff move to and fro through the crowd, carrying trays or bottles. Each wears a plain domino, just like the woman at the door. So the servants are wearing domino masks. Some of the staff are wearing swords at their hips and mail beneath their livery, ushering guests to and fro from various rooms of the house. The crowd is brightly colored and in constant motion, making it difficult to pick out individual figures, but you do spy a few you think you recognize. A gnome woman stands near the windows chattering with a cluster of other guests. She wears a mask painted with blue swirling designs and a butterfly ornament set with a blue gemstone cleverly perched at her right temple. All right, I guess we're supposed to make notes of some of this. So we have a gnome woman. I'm going to write down. This is 1, 3, 5, 7. Gnome mask. Dwarf. I'm just going to keep the number. I'm going to let us come back to this thing if we need the details. I'm just going to make some little shorthand notes. So the gnome woman has blue swirl, and the dwarf man is black and white checks. Dwarf girl is owl feathers. So I guess these are our is it the it's not the bakers. Is this Jasper? No, that Jasper was a gnome. This might be the dwarf bakers. Yeah, those are the dwarf bakers. And the gnome woman might be Sapphire. Standing just to your left is a tall orc woman with a plain black mask. Plain black mask. Standing at her side is a gnome woman with a flamboyant mask, curl of immense red and pink feathers fluttering well above her head. Okay, so these are Miriam. These are going to be Miriam and Braxton. And the gnome is flamboyant. This is Braxton, Miriam, question mark. This might be Sapphire, because we recognize him. After a moment, she touches the gnome on the shoulder and crosses the floor to you in 3 long strides. You're here, says the orc woman. I'm glad. I don't think we had anything to worry about. There are guards masked and mingled throughout the crowd, including some from the Belmonts and Cunninghams, but I'm always happy to have you to hand. She smiles at you, then glances down as the wavering feathers of her gnome companion appear at her side. You should try to enjoy the party, says the orc. Leave protecting guests to me and the other guards. Not before I get a dance out of you, says the gnome, leaning back and shoving her feathers aside with one hand in order to see the orc's face, a proper one. Okay, so we could say, thanks for letting me know, or we could say, good evening, Miriam. It doesn't seem to matter. I guess we'll greet Miriam 25, 26. Good evening, says the gnome happily. The orc smirks. Who's this Miriam lady? I'm sure I don't know her. She sounds like a wonderful person. The masked orc chuckles as the gnome continues. I'm honored that you, a stranger, would mistake me for this Miriam I've heard so much about. I thought you didn't know who she is, interrupts the orc. The gnome glares up at the orc. Did I say that? Goodness, I think it's time for a dance. With that, the gnome takes the orc by the hand and drags her, well, the orc allows herself to be dragged, towards the dance floor. 1528. The crowd stills as a chime rings out, a silver on glass coming from the balcony overlooking the grand ball. A tall, ethereal human woman in a resplendent green gown and quartered black and white dragon mask steps forward on the balcony to address the guests. Welcome to the annual Three Lords Ball, she says in a voice that feels quiet but nonetheless fills the hall. Okay, let's just make a note. 1528 tells us about, it looks like, Lady Regina in quartered black and white mask. Quartered black and white mask. Okay. Welcome to the annual Three Lords Ball, she says in a voice that feels quiet but nonetheless fills the hall. Tonight we celebrate the alliance of three noble houses, House Cunningham, and here a group of men and women in mainly blue and gold. Okay, blue and gold are their colors. Cheer from where they cluster near the garden door. House Belmont, another cheer, this from a group of people in red and white. Close to the musicians. And of course, House Fairfax. That's her house. Our relationship remains unique in the barony, I believe stretching back some 10 generations to the union of the three lords on the battlefield against the shambling undead hordes that threaten us all. By working together, then, we showed that we were stronger than the forces that would tear us apart. She raises her glass, where the wine within sparkles in the lantern light. Tonight, we celebrate that relationship and join together once more. Eat, dance, be merry. Together, we will always be stronger than the darkness. The crowd cheers, but the woman's glass drops from her fingers. Uh-oh, poisoned? Falling over the edge of the balcony to shatter on the floor far below. She staggers and begins to fall back before being caught at each elbow by a human man in a black domino mask and a human woman in a mask angled and stylized to resemble a knight's helm. Okay, 1528, knight's helm, woman mask, catches Regina. I wonder if that's significant. For a moment, the crowd holds its breath, and then the woman in the dragon mask steps forward once more, now clutching the arms of her two supporters. If story point 06 is marked, it is. Read entry 1904. Oh, she's sick. She's suffering from an illness. Okay. She's suffering from an illness. I guess she wasn't poisoned. She got weak. She's continuing. But it would be foolish to pretend that the darkness is not present. We mourn tonight the lives of two of our own, taken from us before their time. She gestures down to the hall floor, where a table sits to one side, occupied by no one. A pair of masks rest on the table. One mask is flocked with pure white wool and styled to resemble a lamb. 1904. This is the lamb mask. The other is elegant with fine patterns and an intricate wire butterfly wing that extends over half of what would be the wearer's face. Each mask is surrounded by white roses and other cut flowers, with the occasional talisman or scrap of paper laid by mourners and guests. It reminds you of nothing so much as the Tree of Tales, a gathering of mementos to memorialize the fallen. So that's Philip, the son, and Sonia, the daughter, the two that got killed. Make no mistake, the darkness that claimed these young people is a threat to us all. If left unchecked, it will spread and throw us all into chaos. The woman bows her head and grips the hands of her supporters tightly. A moment of silence, please, for those we've lost. 2151. Silence settles over the assemblage like a snowfall. Heads bow and stillness reigns. Then the woman in the dragon mask lifts her head and speaks again, her voice stronger, brighter. And now it is time to celebrate. We celebrate the lives lost and those yet living. We are the light against the darkness. Make merry, my friends, and let your light shine. Thank you. The crowd cheers, the minstrels strike up a tune, and the hall is once again awash in merriment and fellowship. If story point G5 is checked, it's not, then we would do something. Otherwise, 2, 5, 6, 7. With no immediate demands on your attention, you take a moment to watch the crowd and survey the room. With the speeches out of the way, the guests are spreading throughout the manor. The minstrels, perched on the spiral stair overlooking the west side of the hall, are dashing out a lively tune on lute, pipes, tabor, and harp. About a dozen couples twirl and prance in a complicated quadrille on the dance floor, forming and reforming into ever-evolving patterns as they move. Many guests are clustered by the banquet table at the head of the hall, helping themselves to platters of food and settling in at nearby tables to eat. It's an unusual arrangement, but probably the only way to feed a large number of guests present in the space available. You note two humans, a man and a woman, in stag and doe masks, talking in low tones near the table, watching the rest of the crowd. Okay, 2, 5, 6, 7. Human, man, and woman. Stag and doe masks. They're in the main hall. The woman in the dragon mask remains on the balcony overlooking the hall, where she is now surrounded by guests who you take to be other nobles. A tall human man with a half mask of blue and gold checks is leaning over the edge of the balcony, scratching a small jeweled drake under its scaly chin, while the creature coos in contentment. So we heard about that person. We heard about that person in one of our readings. Half mask of blue and gold checks. So we know this is one of the Cunninghams, blue and gold. And this human man and woman are watching. A stout human man with bushy red beard and wearing a mask of red silk with a white rose at one temple leans in closely to the woman in the black and white dragon mask, talking less privately than he seems to think. This is the other family, the Belmont. The doors of the garden are open, and you can see lanterns dotting the greenery. Several guests have already fled the noise and bustle of the main hall to walk in the garden alone or in pairs, where the pools of shadow and many twists and turns of the path provide privacy. At least one couple is walking hand in hand, clearly out for a romantic evening stroll. So we can find ourselves a dance partner. We can mingle near the banquet table and try the food. We can approach the dragon woman and her entourage, or we can go out to the garden. I want to approach the dragon woman so that we can hear what this guy is talking about. So 2247. The group of nobles on the balcony sprawls down the staircase, sorting themselves higher or lower on the stair, presumably based on rank. At the head of the stairs stands the woman with the black and white dragon mask. Leaning over the balcony rail at her side is a tall human man in a mask with blue and gold checks. A chirping drake flutters its leathery wings while perched on his hand. A step below the woman in the dragon mask is a stout human man with a mask of red silk with white rose at his temple. His bushy red beard burns brightly against the black of his velvet tunic. These are the two heads of these two noble houses. Below the man in the red mask stands a slender elf woman with a crescent moon mask, in conversation with a brown-skinned human woman whose mask resembles a knight helm with a crown of black feathers. Okay, so I think what this is hinting to us is that the crescent moon is going to be Celise, moon, human woman, is Celise, right? And I think the knight's helm with black feathers, is that going to be the daughter, the last remaining daughter? That's the one that was up there holding. The last remaining daughter is Rochelle, I believe. Yeah. Oh, look, it's telling us here. No, wait, it's not. 2247. 2247. Right, a step below is a stout man with man in red. Okay, below the man in the red mask stands a slender elf woman with a crescent moon mask. That's Celise. She's elf. With a brown-skinned human woman whose mask resembles a knight's helm with a crown of black feathers. That's going to be Rochelle, the daughter. Still more well-to-do partiers spill down the steps, some climbing up or down in their pursuit of food, dancing, or gossip. Some of the guests linger by the table covered in flowers long enough to lay one of their own upon it, or just touch the mask in the center and bow their heads for a silent moment. Then they move on. Okay, so we can join the conversation on the stairs. We can linger nearby to eavesdrop on the balcony, or approach the table surrounded by flowers. I guess I'm going to eavesdrop on the balcony, though I'm very interested in those two people, the doe and the stag, that were watching people. But let's eavesdrop on the balcony. We've made it this far. 5196. He's continuing in the middle of the sentence. Another 2 families last month, and I'll lose a half dozen more when the harvest is over, complains the human with the bushy red beard. They're all moving to your lands. I'll have farms going fallow, and who will replace their taxes in my coffers, They're not serfs, my lord, says the woman with the dragon mask. If they're leaving your lands for mine, that's their choice. Perhaps you should spend more time thinking of ways to encourage them to stay and less time blaming me for your problems. The human man with the drake coiled around his arm chirps, and the drake suddenly flutters out into the air above the dancers below. Dragonholt's prosperity can help us all, he says. Oh, so you were listening all along, grumbles the bearded man in the red mask. Okay, so let's just points the human man with the bushy red beard. Which one is the red beard? I think that's Belmont. We should have been a little more careful. Blue and gold. I didn't write down who has the drake. Who has that little creature? 2247. Stout man with the mask of red silk and white rose, red beard. Okay, so that's the Belmont. Red beard. And then who's got the drake? Blue and gold noble has the drake. Okay, continuing. The human man with the drake coiled around his arm chirps, and the drake suddenly flutters out into the air above the dancers below. Dragonholt's prosperity can help us all, he says. Oh, so you were listening all along, grumbles the bearded man in the red mask. I was. Your mistake is seeing Dragonholt as a competition, rather than finding ways to benefit. In my county, I've shifted the market day to the middle of the week. That way, merchants don't have to choose between two markets, but can visit them both. And some of those rich travelers who are flocking to Countess Fairfax's streets are passing through my lands on their way home. We both win that way. He shrugs as his drake returns to coil around his arm again, proffering up a small morsel of something in its free hand for the creature to eat. It flares its iridescent ruff of scales and coos, darting in at the food like a striking serpent. Well, we can't very well both shift our market day, or we're right back to the same problem, aren't we? Grumbles the man with the beard. He turns to the woman with the dragon mask and points one thick finger. You need to bar my peasants from settling on your land. I'll do nothing of the sort, my lord, she says with a flick of her fingers. Our families have been intertwined for generations, and so have theirs. You'd have me sunder brother from sister, grandparents from their grandchildren. Leave off, Leon, says the tall man with the drake. Tonight isn't the time for this discussion. The man with the bushy beard huffs, takes a drink of wine, and fumes over the balcony. And you move on, 118. So he's angry. And the other guy is not angry, but that could just be acting. 1118. You pause a moment to collect yourself and get a drink of water from a passing servant in a black mask. Revelers surround you, and the masquerade shows no sign of slowing down. Time passes. Okay, so that's our first mark of time in this quest. This is 1118. If 5 or more time has passed, do something. Otherwise, 1147. From your position on the edge of the great hall, you have a good view of the proceedings. Dancers in colorful costumes make up most of the floor. More guests cluster at a long table by the kitchen laden with food. On a balcony overlooking the hall, a woman in a dragon mask entertains guests in fine clothing. A cool breeze and the scent of flowers wafts in from the open doors near the back of the hall, leading to the manor gardens. You can find a dance partner. We can mingle near the banquet table and try the food. We can do what we did before, approach the dragon woman and her entourage, or go out to the garden. Now, when we went to the dragon woman, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to remind ourselves. That was 2247, and there were other options there. We can talk on the stairs, or we can go to the balcony, or the banquet table. All right, I think we'll just this time mingle near the banquet table and try the food. Yeah, let's see if we can hear those other people. 5335. The smell from the banquet table takes hold of you and drags you closer. Steam rises from a heavy earthenware dish decorated with ram's horns, where joints of mutton falling off the bone lie on a bed of roasted tubers and shallots. Ducks stuffed with spices lie at either end of the table, roasted to a rich golden brown. The sides of the table are piled high with crisp apples and wheels of white cheese, bowls of deep purple plums, jars of pickled cabbage and onions, dishes of roasted vegetables of every description. Baskets of bread and urns of creamy butter and sweet jams are crammed into what little table space remains. A table to one side holds a collection of pastries and cakes, as well as a small side dish of candied nuts and fruits. Black masked staff flit in and out of the kitchen, frantically replacing food as fast as the guests consume it. As you help yourself to your favorite dishes, you notice several other guests loitering near the banquet table. A small group is centered around a tall human man with a stag mask and a human woman with her mask styled to resemble a doe. These are the people I'm curious about. The other end of the table, a human man in plain black mask is spinning a yarn of valiant chivalry to an audience that seems half amused and half annoyed. Just to your left, a gnome woman whose mask sports an almost dangerously long plume of red feathers carefully loads food onto her plate. I don't know. It's not that relevant, but in case, like, the what I'm thinking is like we're gonna get something where we have to figure out which person is a culprit based on their mask, and so like all these masks we recognize, we can rule out. That's my guess. So, plain black mask is this might be the Theodore, the person who tells stories, who like tells uh, tales of fake stuff, and then the long red feather plume mask of a gnome is just eating food. I don't know who that is, but she likes food. All right, so our choices are mingle with the stag and doe masked humans, listen to the man in the black mask tell his tales, or get some food. All right, so let's listen to the stag and doe. 5551. You grab only a few morsels of your favorites from the banquet table before wandering over to the group of guests nearby. No truffles this year, says the man in stag mask. It's a miracle there were any last year, dear, says the woman in the doe mask. They don't come into season until fall, and Swindon gets such a good price for them in Highcrest there's rarely any left by high summer. Truffles or no truffles, says a gnome with a blue mask adorned with a butterfly at her right temple. Regina's cook knows her trade. High praise coming from you, says the stag. A slender human woman in a plain wooden mask painted with wildflowers laughs. More mask descriptions. I don't know if we need to know these, but okay, wildflower wood mask. Human. I've never heard you say the same about mother's cooking. I have no idea what any of you are talking about, says the gnome with the blue mask. She winks in your direction. I'm just a passing stranger in a mask, not a local innkeeper. Okay, so maybe this is one of our innkeeper women. It's either Sapphire or one of the others. Direct the conversation towards the harvest feast rivalry. Steer the topic towards the Fairfax family history, or inquire about the Belmonts and Cunninghams. I guess we should ask about the Belmonts and Cunninghams. I feel like we already know quite a bit, but maybe if they're key to this, it helps to gather whatever information we can. The Cunninghams and Belmonts are the wards of the nearest counties, explains the woman with the doe mask. The three families have long been friends and allies for generations. Lord Holland's wife was a Belmont, says the woman with the flower mask. Keurig mother. Nah, not Regina's, though. No one's entirely certain who her mother was. Okay, that's interesting. So this is actually Keurig. We think is the bad guy. So he's the uncle, right? Uncle from another mother. So Keurig's mother was Belmont. Lord Holland's wife. And we should be looking for Keurig. Like if we can find him in a mask, he would be the one to be causing mischief. Bit of an insult to the Belmonts, then, when Keurig was set aside, no? Suggests the gnome. That's probably why Lord Leon Belmont was trying to marry one of his sons to Lady Sonia before her death, says the woman with the flower mask. That would go a long way towards repairing any rift between the families. You learn a lot about these nobles tending bar at the Countess Inn, don't you? Chuckles the man with the stag mask. Yeah, so the stag and doe masks look like they're the patrons of the Countess Inn. Okay. What about the Cunninghams? Asked the gnome woman. What's their stake in all this? Lord Osric Cunningham is more interested in that jeweled drake pet of his than in politics, says the woman with the flower mask. It's his wife Elena who makes those decisions. She's from Highcrest and she favors closer relations with the Fairfaxes. Well, I guess Rochelle will have her pick of suitors then, won't she? Says the gnomic woman. That should keep us in good gossip for another few years. Read entry 1118. Okay, so 1118 we're back to again, which gives us our choice. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, 1118 is time passes. Otherwise, 1147. Let's just make sure that's right. 5087. 1118. Okay. So now we're back to check again. We can we did the mingle with the banquet table. We can go to the gardens. We can get yourself a dance partner. Let's do that. 4573. As you approach the dance floor, the music changes and a new dance begins. A contradanza where rows of multiples of couples exchange partners in ever more complicated flurries of movement. The human woman with the night mask is in the center of it. It's going to be Rochelle. Dancing with gusto down the row of celebrants arm in arm with a human man in a long-nosed, grotesque mask before handing him off to take the arm of a human woman with a mask like a fox. Are these the two suitors? 4573. So Rochelle is going to be the night mask. And then we've got human, grotesque mask. And then we've got human man, human woman with fox mask. So maybe those are the two potential suitors from the different families. Off to one side, the tall orc woman with the black mask dances rather carefully with the gnome and her flamboyant plumage. The orc dances stiffly, formally, while the gnome spins and flourishes before her. I do actually know these court dances, says the orc. I could lead you through one if you want. It's not that hard. These are going to be Miriam and Braxton, but did we write that down properly? What did we write down? I can barely read my notes. I should have taken better care. Yes. Plain black is Matt Baxton and flamboyant feather is Miriam. Okay. Another gnome in a blue mask with a sapphire butterfly ornament stands nearby, laughing and clapping at the couple's antics. Okay, so that's gonna be Sapphire. So gnome with sapphire blue is Sapphire. She glances your way and smiles, then returns her attention to the dancing. At the other edge of the dance floor, near the garden, two dwarves are dancing, an older man with a black and white checked mask with gold trim, and a young girl with a feathered mask styled to resemble an owl. They don't seem to be moving with the music, but they don't seem to have noticed this fact with all the jumping and shrieking the young girl is doing. We can ask the gnome woman with the blue mask for a dance. That's Sapphire. We can approach the two dwarves on the dance floor. Or we can join the large group in the elaborate dance. All right, let's talk to the two dwarves. Let's nail those down. 7266. Da, asked the young girl as you approached. Did you ever dance like this with Ma? Nah, not like this, says the older dwarf. A proper Dunwar dance be lower to the ground and far more kicking. The men and the women would never dance together, but separately to show off, you see. He chuckles at some memory. More kicking, says the girl in snowy owl mask, like this. She adds high kicks to her leaps at a great peril to those around her. Her father laughs, then nods to you as he notices your arrival. So we can ask the older dwarf for a dance, or offer to dance with the snowy owl, or offer the snowy owl a gift. The cloth doll. We finally get to get rid of that cloth doll. Awesome. 6257. It would be a clever game design if, like, in the end, if you hadn't given them to them the proper way during the game, you had, like, your second chance. You crouch down and offer Ursula's doll to the dwarf girl. She steps forward, taking the doll from you and lifting it up to see it better through her mask. For me, she says, oh, thank ye, I love her. She squeezes the doll tight, then pulls a stuffed owl from within her dress. Fagin Owl, meet your new friend. Oh, does she have a name, she asks you? We lose the owl, the cloth doll. That was here, if you don't remember it. It said give it to someone for luck and in need of love. She lost her mother, so that makes sense. Mark 1 progress in heroism. Okay. Unfortunately, that's not really going to help us. You tell her about Ursula and her mother and how the doll was her friend when she was lonely. Oh, I see. We didn't make that connection. It was her mother's doll. Otherwise, we would have known for sure. The girl in the owl mask nods, drinking in your story. I'll call ye Ursula then, she says to the doll. Do you want to dance with us, Ursula? Yes, please. I would like that very much. All right, then we must all dance together. Suddenly the girl reaches up and grabs your hand and her father's. Without warning you, you are all dancing in a circle as the music skirls and whirls around you. After a while of enthusiastic leaping in circles to the laughter of both dwarves, you come to a stop, and the girl in the snowy owl mask rummages in her dress for a moment. I have something for ye, she says, and she pulls a whirling shell on a leather cord from around her neck. Here, she says, pressing it into your hand, I found this, she explains, slightly out of breath. When ye first came to Dragonholt, me da and me, it's been me good luck charm, she nods. I want ye to have it. You gain the polished shell, item J. Oh, that's exciting. I wonder if that's going to be useful to us. J, huh? Okay. This shiny round shell was given to you by Penny. When you clutch it near your ear, you can hear the whispers of the spirits. All right. Mark story point Q5. Okay, always nice to mark a story point. The girl then returns to her father. Da, can we go to the garden now? I want to see the pond. Aye, my treasure, and so ye shall. The dwarf man bows to you and smiles. Thank ye for the dance. Then he leads the snowy owl out the door into the garden. Read entry 118, which is back. 118 says time passes. Sorry, it's time passes here. Okay. And then if 5 or more, something's going to happen. Otherwise, we go back where we have a choice. Let's go out to the garden. 4063. Okay. 4063. The garden is cool and dark, with only a small handful of lanterns glimmering softly to light the paths. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves and washes across your skin, bringing with it the sweet scent of flowers. The dark silhouette of a large oak tree stands in the center of the garden, the moon silvery behind it. It towers above the hedges that mark off its space. On the right, along the manor wall and near the door to the kitchen, is a vegetable garden, pragmatic but not precisely beautiful. To your left, behind another hedge, you can hear the tinkling of a running brook feeding a pond. Directly in front of you, an arched trellis climbs with flowering vines. Behind it lies a rambling footpath marked with occasional stone lanterns, benches screened by tall shrubs and flowers blooming in the moonlight. So we can make our way to the oak tree, follow the sound of water to the pond, or pass under the flower trellis, or go to the vegetable garden. 4 places that we have no reason to go anywhere. What's the oak tree? Oh, the silhouette of a large oak tree stands in the center of the garden, the moon silvery behind it. It towers above the hedges that mark off its space. I mean, I guess let's try the oak tree is the first entry, and we might as well go there, especially if it's got a good view of everything else. So let's go there. 8395. I don't have a good reason to go anywhere else. You make your way through a short hedge maze to the oak tree. From its crown hang a half-dozen paper lanterns, akin to those adorning the great halls inside. If entry point K8 is marked, okay, K8 is marked, then we can read 8591. Okay, that's exciting. Don't know what it's about. Beneath the spreading limbs of the oak tree, an elderly couple sways gently to the music lifting out of the manor house. One, a human man, has a wooden mask carved like a frog. The other, a human woman, has a cascade of bright flowers flowing off her mask. She rests her head lightly against his chest as they dance in the flickering light of the lanterns hung from the tree. Was it worth the wait, she asks after a silence. Yes, he says, it was worth every single day that brought us here tonight. She tilts her head up and they kiss, then giggle as their masks clack together. So these are the two people, Theodore and Ursula or whatever, that we hooked up back together. So let's just write down that human frog mask is Theodore, and the human woman bright flowers, that's Ursula. Those are the wooden. Okay, if story point T6 is marked, let's see, is T6 marked? T6 is not marked, so instead we go back to 1118. Okay, so 1118 makes us make time pass. All right, time passes. Now 4 time have passed. If 5 or more, we're going to do something else. So this is going to be our last chance to go. Otherwise, we're back to decide what to do. I guess we're going to go to the garden again, 4063. And from the garden, we've got 3 things to do here that we haven't done. We can either follow the sound of water, pass under the flower trellis, or go to the vegetable garden. Let's read again why we would want to do any of these. On the right, along the manor wall and near the door to the kitchen, is a vegetable garden. To the left, behind another hedge, you can hear the trickling of a running brook feeding a pond. In front of you, arched trellis with flowering vines. I think we should go to the vegetable garden near the kitchen in case there's some poisoning going on. 5222. Vegetable garden. The vegetable garden is quiet and lit only by moonlight and the spill of light from the manor. Carrots and cabbage, beets and broccoli, parsnips and peas, and other vegetables grow in rows in raised beds of rich-smelling dark earth surrounded by gray stones. Rusty red pots bracket the beds and march along the manor wall, filled with basil, hyssop, and other herbs. The entire garden is surrounded by a weathered wooden fence and waving stalks of lavender and bee balm. If story point K8 is marked, K8 is marked. Is K8 marked? K8 is marked. 7738. My eyes are going. 7738. You step in to examine the garden more closely. The crops are all growing well with no signs of blight or illness. If story point T6 is marked, T6 is not marked. I feel like that's the second time we've been asked to check it. Otherwise, 6846. You spend a few calming minutes digging in the rich soil of the garden, plucking a few weeds you find, and enjoying the rich smells and gentle breathing of the plants. Go to 1118. Okay. So we could have gotten some good stuff if we had some stuff marked, but we didn't, so it was a total nothing. Time passes. Now 5 time hath passed. 4129. A shriek tears through the music, and commotion like a talon through lace. Screaming comes from the stairs up the balcony, and panicked guests go streaming past you, rushing for the door. I guess we should have hung around, looked at more people on the stairs. The ghostly figure of a young woman moans in midair over the stairs. The woman's skin is dark, her hair a riot of golden curls, and she wears her dress worn bunched at one hip for riding. Color fades in and out as she moves, flickering in the air, and blood splatters across her face. Celeste removes her crescent moon mask and gasps, "Sonia." She steps toward the ghost, holding the mask over her breast as if to guard herself. "Sonia, talk to us." "He sabotaged my saddle," moans the ghost. "Kirik, my own uncle." She moans and floats out over the crowd, where a sudden circle appears around a tall human man. "You wanted my mother's seat, and you were willing to kill me to get it, uncle." The tall man removes his mask, revealing the scarred face of the bandit leader. "I did not," he shouts. "That idiot stable master acted without my orders." He pulls away from the specter, but finds his path blocked by a broad-shouldered orc woman in a black mask. Braxton throws her mask aside and draws her sword. On the balcony above, Regina removes her black and white dragon mask, and Rochelle doffs her faux knight's helm. Okay, so that's right. Both seem several shades paler than normal, transfixed by the sight of Sonia's ghost. "Regina," calls Kirik, "I never intended for things to get this out of hand. The spirits hate a kingslayer." If story point 06 is marked, which it is, 3174. A ghostly hand claps Kirik on the shoulder, and he turns to find himself staring into Philip's dead face. "But a kinslayer you are, uncle," says the second ghost. "You murdered me. We quarreled, and a quarrel ended my life." The ghost glances down at his chest, where a spectral crossbow bolt protrudes in a spreading field of red blood. Ghosts are getting their revenge. "No," grounds Kirik, staggering back. "Murderer," shouts Sonia's ghost. "Abductor, brigand, and kinslayer," shouts Phillips. "I never meant any of this to happen," screams Kirik. Read entry 9917. Battle is joined. The first act ends here. From now on, if you're playing with 2, use your activations. If you exhausted, refresh it now. Okay, that's fine. Braxton steps forward and throws Kirik to the ground. She levels her sword at him. "Kirik Fairfax," she growls, "you are under arrest for treason." The other Fairfaxes walk forward, Regina leading the way, with Timothy hovering at her side. "Brother, I think you can understand why, under the circumstances, I do not consider you an invited guest." "Let's throw him in a cell," says Rochelle. One hand drops to the hilt of her sword, and the other hikes up her ruffled skirts to free her movement. Dame Braxton, would you be so kind? Of course, my lady, says the orc, hauling Kirik to his feet. Rochelle watches her uncle warily. Behind her, you see a human woman in a red riding costume and skull mask draw a long dagger and pad forward, the knife held flat against her arm. An assassin. It seems no one else has spotted her. We can shout a warning to Rochelle, spring forward to protect her, or freeze the assassin in place with the frost rune. The frost rune has never failed us. But I feel like the safe thing to do would be to get in the way. I mean, what if the frost rune doesn't work on this person? All right. It's never failed us. We have it. Some people might not have it, so we're going to use it. 7836. You feel the cold creep into your body before you even pull the frost rune from your bag. Even as you will it, almost before you will it, ice slicks the floor beneath the assassin's feet, sending her tumbling, then rushes upward with a crack to encase her arms and legs. A gasp runs through the crowd, and everyone takes a step back except Regina, whose eyes remain fixed on the assassin. Celeste steps towards you. That is a very impressive rune. You must tell me everything about where you found it. She glances to where Rochelle has drawn her sword and Braxton wrestles with Kirik. But later, I think. 3968. So before we do that, I just want to read again 7836, 7738. I want to read the description of this. I want to read the description of this assassin. 3968, was that it? Or that's the new one we read. All right, we'll come back to it if we think. Kirik slashes at Braxton with a knife, breaking away. There's no turning back now, he calls. A number of partygoers throw off their masks and draw a motley assortment of hook knives, cudgels set with nails, and other weapons made as much for cruelty as effect. Sonia's ghost shrieks as the remaining guests cry out in fear and begin running for the exits, where more bandits come streaming in. The ghost rises above them all, her cries rising higher and higher until a knife flashes through her and she vanishes. Kill them all, spits Kirik, and may we all be damned for it. 5 bandits rush forward, heading for Rochelle and her mother. Braxton steps forward and lashes out at the lead bandit, sending him staggering, but the other 4 rush past her like water. Rochelle shoves her mother behind her, holding her sword in a low grip. You get to her past my corpse, she hisses. That's the idea, princess, chuckles the bandits in front, a lean, dark-skinned woman with dramatic patterns shaved into her hair. The screaming crowd parts, and a woman in Fairfax livery shoves to the front, tossing aside her black domino mask. The surly guard, Talia. You vermin are going to make me earn my pay tonight, aren't you? She snaps, drawing her sword. Then she rushes forward and scatters the bandits with a swing of her blade. More bandits fight their way through the fleeing guests, moving to surround you. Rochelle shifts to and fro, desperately trying to stay between all of them and her mother. Okay, we can cut a path through the enemy. We can charge headlong at the bandits. We can blast the flanking bandits away with our runes. Or we can inspire your fellows with bardic song if we have performance. Well, we do have performance, but that's just craziness. Wait, we don't have performance. that one. No, we have persuasion. Cut a path through the enemy. Are we far away from Rochelle? Like, we want to get to Rochelle and help protect. So I'll cut a path if we need to do that to get to them. The bandits rush for Rochelle. Moving to surround you. All right, let's cut a path through the enemy. Maybe we can make our way to help Rochelle. 3, 3, 2, 1. Weapon raised, you pick what looks like a weak link in the bandit chain and charge. I'm with you, calls Rochelle, rushing to your side. Together you crash into a group of 3 bandits with clubs and swords. If you have athletics or military. Okay, so now what did we gave ourselves athletics, I believe. That was our upgrade. Yes. Okay. 3, 3, 2, 1. If you have athletics or military, 7, 2, 6, 4. It's the bandits, huh? You take the lead, using brutal, arcing strikes to knock through the bandits' guard and keep them off balance. Rochelle follows along behind you, brutally exploiting each opening you create with a swift, practiced stroke. She cuts deep into the last bandit's leg, sending a fountain of blood up to spatter on her face. Spirits protect me, she breathes. I've never killed anyone before. You tap her on the shoulder and gesture toward the remaining bandits, who are even now gathering for a counterattack. Yes, she says. Well argued. Fight now, reflect later. Read 4, 7, 3, 1. You have a moment's peace and regroup with the Fairfaxes, Timothy, Braxton, Miriam, and the 3 guards, Tweagle, Talia, and Deacon. The bandits hang back, but every moment more filter through the door or out of the rapidly thinning crowd. We cannot stay here, says Braxton. We have no cover and are badly outnumbered. Aye, the young knight has the right of it, murmurs Tweagle. We must move or die. He jerks his head at the stone stair behind you, up into the tower. It's the only part of the manor grounds that are fortified at all. You realize that the eastern wing of the manor house is in fact an old stone tower, and the balcony overlooking the ballroom would be a fairly defensible position. The garden, suggests Timothy, his voice ragged, will be trapped in the tower. In the garden we can use the hedges to our advantage, and we'll have room to run if we need to. The gardens border directly on the orchards surrounding the village. Although its hedges offer some protection, the true safety in that direction might be to slip into the trees in the darkness and hope for the best. Tweagle and Braxton share a glance, then look to you for a decision. Okay, our first decision that feels like a branching path that's not a gamey decision, but a sort of, we can either run away, is what it seems like it's saying. The true safety might be to slip into the trees in darkness and hope for the best. Tweagle says we must move up or die. And Timothy says we'll be trapped in the tower. Okay. Part of this decision might be, who do we trust more? Now, Timothy is the loyalist person, we think. I don't remember if we're supposed to believe that Tweagle is loyal. Balcony overlooking the ballroom would be a fairly defensible position. I mean, I want to fight. I just don't know if the game is telling me I should go up to the tower if you want to fight, or run to the garden if you want to hide. But we have been through the garden. It's not dangerous. So out to the garden. I'm going to follow Timothy. He was the loyal one who's been with the family for so long. So 1959. I don't like the idea of being trapped either. So 1959. Do it, snaps Rochelle. Braxton, Talia, with me. We'll give them some cover. The group moves towards the garden as Braxton, Rochelle, and Talia launch a concerted attack on the bandits, driving them back and giving you room to maneuver. Regina and Timothy soon pass through the doors to the garden, and the others follow one by one. Soon enough, you, Braxton, and Rochelle are the last ones standing in the doorway. You fall back into the garden and find yourselves confronted by another group of bandits, cutting you off from the hedge maze beyond where Talia and Celise stand, fending off any pursuit. 4 bandits lie between you and the hedge, led by a lean brown human woman with dramatic patterns shaved into her hair. Get the noble girl, sneers the lead bandit. Kirik's paying 100 gold to the one who cuts her down. Try it, hissed Rochelle, her knuckles whitening on the hilt of her sword. We have to get back to the group, says Braxton, shifting to keep her focus on the bandits now moving to encircle you. So we can fend off the bandits while Rochelle clears a path. We can support the 2 fighters with tactical advice. We do have military from our sword. So we can fire from afar while the others engage. Or we can create an icy barrier between you and the bandits with the Frost Ruin, which has never let us down. Right, I'm going to do something that we haven't done before. I'm going to try this tactical advice just because I want to finally use military. So I'm going to choose 1, 2, 2. Oh, I'm assuming it's military. And it's such a weird choice to try to advise them. But 1, 2, 2, 0. Braxton steps towards the hedge mage to engage the bandit with the dramatic hair, while Rochelle guards her flank, keeping 2 bandits at bay with swings of her sword. You call out warnings and tactical advice to both of them, trying to stay out of the conflict so you can see everything as it happens. If you have military, read, which we do, 6820. Don't forget, we still have a skill we can learn if we need it. Braxton and Rochelle work smoothly together, trading opponents and shifting their focus with ease. They react instantly to your warnings and fluidly to enact your plans. Together, you move as an irresistible unit, the bandits giving ground with each shift and stratagem. Soon you've retreated into the hedge maze, where the bandits must proceed down a narrow corridor if they intend to follow. Read 8913. You stop at the first turning of the maze to dissuade any further pursuit, while the others continue deeper into the gardens. Before you can follow them, a bandit comes swaggering between the hedges, swinging a hooked sword with casual arrogance. Come out here and fight me, you coward, he calls, around a mouthful of sharp teeth. He's an elf man with skin so pale it almost seems translucent. Your countess can't hide behind your skirts forever. Not if she wants to keep the respect of her people. Before you can respond to either the challenge or the insults, the elf leaps to attack, his sword flashing in a deadly arc. So if we have Arcana, we can fend off his advances with fire, which we don't. But we could meet his assault with the Clash of Steel, or use the terrain to your advantage. Now here's the thing. We don't have agility, but we do have athletics. Meet his attack with the Clash of Steel. I feel like our best thing is to be clever, usually. So I'm going to try to use terrain to our advantage. And then if we need agility and can't use athletics and can't use military, then we might try something else. But hopefully we can use military is what I'm hoping. 3098. Oops. As the bandit rushes forward, you find yourself frantically retreating in search of some advantage to be gained from the environment. Soon you are standing at the edge of a pond fed by a babbling stream and surrounded by hedges. A wooden footbridge spans the pond, and the others have already retreated across it, so you make your stand there. Going to fight me by water, eh? Leers the elf. You know they call me Shark. He lifts his sword, and battle is joined. If you have reasoning... Okay, so now we don't have reasoning. Could we get it if we wanted it? We don't even have enough academic study. So we've got enough experience to get one of these skills: deception, empathy, performance, streetwise, military, but we don't have enough academic study to get reasoning. So the answer is no. So 3205 gets us. Shark's first savage swing cuts a bright shard of wood from the bridge's guardrail and sends you scrambling backward. Shark follows up with pounding footwork and slash after thrust after vicious jab as you reel desperately from side to side. The bridge groans under your feet as you retreat, doing your best to stay out of reach of Shark's gleaming hooked blade, barely able to stay alive, let alone come up with a cunning plan. Eventually, you place your foot wrong and feel it break through the wood of the bridge. You stumble, your leg trapped up to the knee in a hole in the bridge, and Shark lands a vicious blow on your shoulder. You lose 4 stamina. Okay. That brings us down to 10. We're still okay. You fall back, and abruptly an arrow plunges into Shark's chest. He drops his sword and falls to his knees, hands scrabbling at the arrow shaft. You pull yourself free from the bridge, wincing as you feel your shoulder grinding against itself. You place both feet against Shark and shove, sending him tumbling against the guardrail, then smashing through it to fall into the water below. You pull yourself back to your feet as the bridge falls to pieces, hobbling to join Rochelle and Tweagle at the shore. She hands the bow to the old orc and offers you a hand. Let's move on, she says, and so you retreat deeper into the hedges maze. 6602. Okay, so they helped us. After a few more twists and turns of the maze, you find yourself in a flower garden, awash with the scents of night-blooming moonflower and primrose. Celise stands under a trellis of flowering vines, waiting for you as the others continue to retreat deeper into the maze. You can hear the sounds of pursuit, bandits howling for your blood and chasing you through the hedges. Just like old times, Celise sighs, drawing her rapier. Her rune bound in copper wire looped around 2 of her fingers. Her rune, bound in copper wire looped around 2 of her fingers, shimmers from her other palm. Okay, so we can fend off the bandits on the narrow path. We can collapse the trellis upon the oncoming bandits. We can entangle the bandits with an alchemical reaction if we have alchemy. Could we get alchemy if we wanted to with our upgrade? No. or call upon the vegetation to aid you with our runes skill. I think we should do that. 7272. Celeste sighs as she stalks back and forth beneath the vine-laden trellis. This is turning into that time at the Duke's hunting lodge. I don't suppose you... She trails off as you step up to the vines, holding your growth rune in one hand and touching the closest leaves with the other. Magic thrums through you, and you feel the vines twitch in response. If you have Arcana, we don't. So 7329. Celeste falls back as your magic spreads into the garden around you, but something seems wrong. There's a touch of some other magic already present, something your rune struggles to overcome. As your magic finally takes hold, the first bandit grabs hold of you and throws you to the ground, nearly breaking your concentration. You lose 3 stamina. Now we're down to 7. Before the bandit, a sandy-haired human woman built like a stump can deliver the killing blow with her hatchet. Celeste leaps forward and slashes across her arm. The bandit hisses, dropping her axe and stepping back right into the vine-covered trellis. The vines casually wrap around her throat and begin to squeeze. Soon the entire garden is alive with rustling vines, threatening roots, and even overtly amorous flowers, ensnaring and attacking the bandits as they approach. You and Celeste retreat to the clearing with the great tree. 4549. Okay, I think it's time to eat our last potion, which brings us back to full health 14. 4549. We have no more healing potions. As you reach the oak tree, in its hedged-in clearing, you hear shouting and the sounds of battle. Emerging from one of the other gaps in the hedge, bandits in rougher costume, armed with swords and bows, have your companions pressed against the tree. No, shouts Celeste, rushing forward to lash out with her brilliant rune. You see Braxton shielding Regina with her body and blade, 2 bandits already at her feet. Miriam has scrambled up the oak tree and is throwing bottles and vials of various noxious and unpleasant things down upon the bandits as they approach. I didn't pack my fight for your life bag this morning, she calls. I'm nearly out of tricks. You run forward to Rochelle's side, where she stands over the fallen form of the orc guard Tweagle. The old man struggles to breathe while he clutches at the shaft of the arrow in his chest. Don't worry about me, he grumbles at you. Get the air out of here. I'm not leaving my mother, snaps Rochelle. Yes, Rochelle, you are. Regina straightens, placing one hand on Braxton's back and gently pushing the orc out of her way. Spending your life to save mine is a poor trade. Daughters do not die for their mothers. Rather, it should be the other way around, I feel. She smiles, a paper-thin thing already tearing apart. Rochelle, I love you with all my heart. You will be a marvelous leader. I'm so sorry that I couldn't stay with you longer. Mother, says Rochelle, cutting down a bandit and turning toward the tree. No, what are you? Regina spreads her arms wide, calls out, and steps backward into the trunk of the great oak. She presses herself against the bark, and the tree begins to groan, then twitch, then pull itself free of the earth, standing and moving like a giant. The bandits scream as the tree steps forward on legs of roots, shaking off rich-smelling earth as it goes. The lanterns hanging from its branches become burning weapons as limbs swing, smashing bandits to the ground and setting them aflame. The tree itself catches fire, but that does nothing to stop its rampage, crashing through the hedges and hurling screaming bandits around like dolls. As the burning colossus vanishes from sight, you brush yourself off and climb back to your feet. No living bandits remain anywhere in the garden that you can see. Of Kirik there is no sign. Oh, frets Timothy, peering after the vanishing tree monster. I hope it doesn't set the orchard on fire. If story point 06 is marked, 06 is marked, Read 6374. So the mother turned into the tree monster. Rochelle sits, shaking with grief, at the edge of the hole left by the oak's departure. Regina lies on the ground, her head in Rochelle's lap. Celeste crouches at her side, two slender fingers pressed to Regina's wrist. I'm sorry, says the elf, she's moved on. No, grumbles Rochelle. Sonia, Philip, now mother, why? Soft laughter comes from the hedge. You turn and see Kirik standing at a gap, his scarred face alive with manic light. So, dear sister, your magic came at a price in the end. My informant told me as much. He pauses, drawing contrition around himself like a masquerade costume. Rochelle, my niece, it's over. I am lord of Dragonholt now. Rochelle stands and draws her sword, her eyes burning like green fire. Not while I live, she growls. Time passes. Read entry 3469. Rochelle rushes forward, slashing at her uncle. Kirik sidesteps her attack with no apparent distress. This tantrum is unbecoming a young woman of noble birth, says Kirik. Even a bastard's daughter. Enough, shouts Rochelle, parrying Kirik's thrust. Her riposte cuts across the bridge of his nose, sending him staggering back. You did this, she screams. You killed your sister, your niece, your nephew, you kinslayer. Kirik falters. No, he says. He steps backward, sword up, as he glances at you and the rest of his audience. That wasn't what I wanted. Philip forced my hand. Another step back. I won't be held responsible for what you make me do if you persist. Suddenly, Kirik turns and flees. Rochelle shrieks an incoherent wail of rage and races after her. You and Braxton leap forward in pursuit, jumping over bandit corpses and struggling to keep both Kirik and Rochelle in view. In the great hall, Kirik runs for the front door. Behind him, Rochelle bends and snatches a spear from the hands of a dead bandit lying on the floor, then steps forward and throws. The spear sinks into the wood of the door with a thwack, nearly striking Kirik's head. He jumps back and Rochelle rushes past him, throwing herself low under his panicked crosscut to slash open his leg. Trailing blood, Kirik staggers to the far stair and climbs up to the salon. Mark 2 progress towards war. Okay, so remember, there's 2 tracks in this quest, a war track and a peace track, and we just marked 2 in war. Then it says read entry 7609. Rochelle lifts her sword and makes to chase after Kirik, but suddenly Braxton is standing in her way with all the insistence of a brick wall. No, my lady, says the orc. You are Countess of Dragonholt now. I can't let you risk yourself like this. Braxton turns to you. Go. Kill him or talk him down, I don't care which. You climb the stairs and find Kirik pacing in the salon. He sees you and readies his sword, a handsome blade featuring the Fairfax family crest. I never wanted Sonia to die, nor anyone else, he says, but now it seems I have no choice. The county is mine by right. I should never have let my witch of a sister steal it from me. He raises the sword. So we can engage him in martial combat. We can knock an arrow and threaten him. Or we can say, I know, just put down the sword. Or we can say, no one has to die. Well, we're not in super terrific state for battle. We have no more healing, although we are at max. but I'm not in the mood to completely be nice to him, so I'm going to knock an arrow and threaten him. 8, 9, 4, 1. And if he wants to fight, then we'll fight. You knock an arrow and draw, centering the point over his chest. Kirik turns to the side and lifts his sword in a steady hand as you explain that his only option at this point is to surrender peacefully. If we have performance or persuasion, we have persuasion. Read entry 9664. 9664. Kirik puts on a brave face, but he also makes no move to attack you while you have your bow drawn. Dragonholt is my birthright, he explains. It was mine before it was ever hers. We don't even know that Regina is the same person as the bastard daughter my father never bothered to mention. She was only ever accepted because she was the hero of the hour. Kirik grips his sword tightly, bringing it up between you. But her hour has passed. This country is mine by right. You explain that whether true or not, he lost any real claim on the county years ago and forfeited it for good when Sonia died. Yep. Mark 2 progress in peace and 1 in war. All right, we still got more war than peace. 5863. 5863. Rochelle suddenly appears at the top of the stairs, her naked sword in hand. She stalks forward, Braxton behind her. Give up, Kirik, you'll never be Count. I already am, he growls, then kicks through the door and into Philip's studio. The country is mine. If you make me kill you for it, you'll have only yourself to blame. He knocks over an easel and shrouded canvas and topples a plinth holding a half-finished sculpture across your path. You follow, stepping sideways around the debris. We can give chase despite the obstacles. We have athletics and do we have agility? No, we have athletics, but not agility. We can block his path with a wall of ice with the fire rune, or we can tell him to give up. All right, it's time to use the fire rune. I'm a little nervous, but we don't... What do you need, athletics or agility to overcome the stuff? All right, let's block his path. It's a semi-peaceful way. We're trying to bump up peace. We're trying to give him all the chance we can. So 1432. Kirik rushes for the far doorway, passing between 2 overstuffed bookcases. You grip your frost rune through its sheepskin, feeling its chill around you, then lash out, hurling the rune's power in front of you. Columns of ice erupt from the floor, forming a wall that blocks Kirik's progress. The rogue lord curses, then shoves his broad shoulders against the bookcase to his left, toppling it over and sending loose pages and volumes everywhere. Kirik climbs over the fallen shelf, but you focus the frost rune's power and send a shard of razor-sharp ice flying at him, piercing his leg and sending him toppling down to the floor beyond. Damn you, he shouts. Kill me or let me go. Leave off your sorcery. Mark 1 progress in peace, then 2 progress in war. Yikes. Whoops, did that the other way. 1 progress in peace and 2 in war. Okay, we're pretty close to war. 4428. Stumbling through the fallen books, Kirik staggers through the door from Philip's studio into Rochelle's training hall. You follow, passing into the long dueling salle with its racks of weapons and carefully smoothed floor, to find Braxton and Rochelle blocking the door back to the salon. Braxton's face is grave, Rochelle's flushed and bright-eyed. Kirik has nowhere to run. Everywhere I turn, he breathes. He lifts his sword and stalks to the side, keeping his eyes on Rochelle. Come then, let us make an end of this. So we could end this farce with steel and blood. That's one of our choices. Bring him to his knees with fire, if we have Arcana, which we don't. Throw down your sword, you're outnumbered, we can scream. Or we can say, we're not going to fight you, Kirik, and read this one. Well, we have dueling. We are in good shape to kill him. But should we give him another chance? Throw down your sword, you're outnumbered. We're not going to fight you? Really? I'm not going to lie and say we're not going to fight you. But I could give him one last chance. But is he going to kill someone if I give him too many chances? I'm giving him one more chance. Throw down your sword, you're outnumbered. 8-2-2-6. Outnumbered, chuckles Kirik. I have allies you haven't seen yet. I don't need to beat you at all. I just need to kill her. He spins and lashes out at Rochelle with his sword, but Braxton catches his blow on her shield, then steps into the block to drive him back. Kirik staggers, laughing and cursing. If you have persuasion, we don't. Otherwise, 9-5-3-6. We could get Braxton killed if we're not careful. 9-5-3-6. You urge Kirik to put aside his sword, but he only snarls and launches another flurry of attacks. Braxton catches each blow on her shield, sending splinters and fragments of wood flying. That's enough, Kirik, she growls, barely knocking aside a lunge that slides past her shield. Can't you see that you're beaten? Stand down or I will put you down. Kirik staggers back and sobs, dragging a hand across his face and leaving a bloody smear. He leans against the wall, staring back and forth between you and Rochelle. Mark 1 progress in peace. We're now 4 peace and 5 war. Read 9-3-2-1. Kirik drops his sword to clatter onto the floor, bringing his hands up to cover his face. That's it then, he sighs, his whole body shaking. He strengthens and wipes at his face and watering eyes with one blood-streaked hand, then steps towards Rochelle with his palms open. This is not going to go well. If 8 progress is marked in peace, it's not even close. Otherwise, 8-9-0-7. Oh boy. A calm settles over the group. I'm sorry, says Kirik. Rochelle turns away, recoiling as if burned. Braxton sheaths her sword and steps forward to restrain Kirik, who suddenly bounds past her, drawing a knife from within his tunic. If 8 progress is marked in war, it's not. Otherwise, 9-1-7-2. So I guess he would have killed us at that time, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe he still will. 9-1-7-2. Rochelle turns back, raising her sword between herself and her uncle, but she manages only a shallow cut across his side. Suddenly, Kirik is behind her, one hand tangled in her curls and the other holding the dagger to her throat. Dragonholt is mine, he hisses. If story point 06 is marked, it keeps asking us to check 06. What was 06? What was 06? I want to put that so I can check it out. 1513. We're gonna kill this guy if this doesn't end soon. I mean, if he doesn't get away with murder. Drop your weapon or she dies, hisses Kirik. Braxton pauses, her sword half out of its sheath, her whole body tense. Do it, the rogue lord hisses, pressing on the knife until a drop of crimson forms on Rochelle's light brown neck. Braxton's sword clangs as it falls to the floor. The only other sound is Rochelle's ragged breathing. We can rush at Kirik with weapon in hand. We can put an arrow between his eyes. We can drop our weapons, or we can say killing her will only make things worse. Okay, I'm not playing around anymore. I'm putting an arrow right in his eyes, and if she gets killed, so be it. 9073. I'm not going to drop my weapon, no. 9073. Uh-oh. You draw back an arrow, trying not to think of the dozen ways this could go wrong. No, shouts Braxton as Kirik begins to draw his knife across his niece's throat and your arrow flies from the bow. If both story points D4 and W3 are marked, okay, D4 is marked and W3 is also marked. Is that going to be good or bad? Let's just check that together. If D4 is marked and W3 is marked, I don't know, is this going to be good or bad? Where is it? 9073. If D4 and W3 are marked, read entry 1523. I'm going to make a note to myself to check the other one. 3325. All right, 1523. Could be bad, could be good. Your arrow slams into Kirik's shoulder and sends his dagger flying across the room. Oh, we didn't kill him. Rochelle staggers away, clutching at a bleeding slash on her cheek, and Braxton rushes forward to restrain her erstwhile captor. Time passes. If story point 06 is marked, there's 06 again. Read entry 2027. With Kirik safely restrained, the fear and exhaustion of the last few hours catches up with you in a rush. You feel disjointed, almost as if swimming through your own life. Soldiers clad in mail and Belmont red arrive, and under Braxton's direction escort Kirik away. Someone presses a clay cup of water into your hand. You drift into the great hall. Regina's body lies on the only surviving table in the place, resting atop a dense carpet of flowers and other memorials. Her own masquerade disguise, the black and white dragon, lies next to Sonia's white lamb. Most of the household clusters around the table, openly weeping. Timothy alternates between trying to give instructions that trail off mid-sentence to nearby staff and blowing his nose on a black handkerchief. Braxton clutches Miriam to her, furiously wiping tears away with one calloused thumb. Celeste cries silently, dabbing at her eye with the hem of her cloak. Rochelle stands alone, clutching the filigree butterfly mask that had been meant for Philip to her chest. Her eyes glimmer with pain, but no tears fall. Her skin is ashen and her gaze fixed on nothing. You half expect to see an arrow protruding from her heart. Eventually, she takes a deep breath and her eyes focus. She looks at each member of her household one at a time and shares a quiet nod with them. You stand for a silent moment, paying your own respects, and stagger out the front door of the manor. The sky offers a pre-dawn grayness, and somewhere a rooster crows. Mark story point C8. Read entry 9997, the Stoic Ending. 9997. So I can see there's Tyrant Ending, Lonely Ending, Hopeful Ending, and Stoic Ending. Kirik is executed the next day in the orchard beneath the Fairfax Memorial Tree. Braxton does the honors with one swing of an enormous axe. Only a handful of witnesses are present. You note that Celeste is not among them. Rochelle seems closed off emotionally. She gives a leaden speech to the villagers about the events of the previous weeks and rejects all offers of comfort or assistance. Even at her coronation ceremony, she barely says a word. Celeste leaves for leaves for Dawnsmore the morning after the ceremony. My advice isn't welcome, and neither am I, she tells you. Under Rochelle and Braxton's leadership, the Fairfax Guard swells in number. In a month, she has 30 swords at her command, and mercenaries are flocking to the county. She establishes a guard station in Evesmoor and orders the construction of a new castle on a hill north of the village. She names it Castle Philip. Ursula has the mural in the Countess Inn repainted to show a fierce warrior woman, blood-stained sword in hand. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. As for you, Rochelle rewards you for your assistance with a fat purse and a stiffly worded speech. But she offers no friendship, and while she doesn't order you out of her county, you get the impression everyone would be happier if you left. It seems she still hasn't forgotten you or herself for Philip's death. Oh, so that's what 06 was going to be. It's always Philip's death, and that's why they're returning to it. So it looks like Philip's death probably caused lots of different branches. Maybe she was going to get killed if Philip didn't get killed. I'm curious. So that's it. The campaign is complete, it says. So we're done. We finished. I will have to give my thoughts in a full review in a separate video. But I wonder if we shouldn't look at these other endings together, if you're curious. I'm not going to look up what triggered them, but let's read the hopeful ending. Kirik is placed in the guard station cell. Okay, so again, we didn't kill him in this ending. Until the following day, when after some debate, Rochelle has him escorted to the main hall of Fairfax Manor to stand trial. Standing before the entire household, notables from the village, and members of the nearby nobility, Kirik offers no defense for his crime, so it falls to Philip to argue for him. So, if Philip's alive, he gets to stay alive. Philip to argue with him, which he does with passion. Rochelle pronounces a sentence of exile, never to return to the barony on pain of death, and promises that Baroness Ketrin will honor the decree. Together, the Fairfax siblings set about restoring their household and their county, often seen riding together through the village and the outlying lands. Rochelle strengthens her forces, adding 10 new soldiers in under a month. Philip returns to his studies with Celise, who now also serves as one of Rochelle's chief advisors in matters of state. Braxton, too, becomes a member of Rochelle's inner council as well as the captain of her guard. Ursula has the mural in the Countess Inn repainted to show a fierce warrior woman, sword and shield in hand, defending a young man with the black and white dragons of Dragonholt rising to either side of her. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. Rochelle rewards you richly for your part in the affair, both with money and honorary titles. How does Defender of Dragonholt sound to you, she asks. I've been thinking of creating a few landed knights in the county, if you're interested in settling down. Okay. All goes back to that one day where we were late leaving the village and Philip got killed while we were just hanging out. All right, let's read the lonely ending. Philip puts on a brave face the following morning, giving a speech from within a curtain of fog on the village green. He proclaims a sentence of exile on his uncle Kirik, never to return to the barony on pain of death. No one seems to question whether his authority stretches that far. You hear from Celise over the following month that Philip is doing well. The other wards have accepted him as Count of Dragonholt despite his age, and he is ably supported by Celise, Timothy, Braxton, and others. This is where Rochelle got killed. He soon cultivates a fine, if stiff, public face, but he is known to cry whenever he's alone, especially at night. He will make a fine lord, she reports, but it will take time for his wounds to heal. As lord, Philip continues the traditions and practices laid out by his mother. He begins construction on a small, open-air theater at the edge of the Willow Grove and has the walls facing the market row painted with memorials to his sisters and mother. Ursula has the mural in the Countess Inn repainted to show a green-eyed young man holding the twin masks of tragedy and comedy. The rest, she explains, will be added in time. Philip will be fine, Celeste tells you, and so will Dragonholt. Okay, now here's the Tyrant Ending. You and Braxton spend a few days crammed into the village's only jail cell, guarded at first by soldiers in Belmont red and white, and then by guards in Fairfax colors, who you are certain were bandits a week ago. Celeste and Miriam visit as often as they can, and are your only source of food, water, and news. From what they tell you, Keurig now rules as Count of Dragonholt, with the support of the Belmont family. The Cunninghams of Haverford, rather than disputing the claim, have retreated back to their lands and hunkered down. Keurig's brigands are marching through the village streets to keep order, but even so many citizens of the county are upset. Some have already fled to Haverford or left the region entirely. Most of the local gnomes vanished overnight. The Countess Inn has been put up for sale. After 3 cold gray days, you are marched from the jail cell and onto the village green, where a gallows has been erected of fresh cut wood. You and Braxton are each fitted with a rope and left to stand on the gallows, while Keurig paces back and forth. Eventually, a crowd gathers on the village green, herded and shoved into place by mail-clad Fairfax guards. Keurig gives a speech about the vile betrayal and murder of his dear niece and nephew at the hands of you and Braxton. You look out at the crowd and find it a sea of disbelieving, fearful faces. You see no trace of Celeste, but manage to pick a teary-eyed sapphire, stoic Grisbeck, with his hands over Penny's eyes, and a few others out of the crowd. Miriam is in the front row, staring at her wife and sobbing. And there can be only one punishment for treason, says Keurig, and you feel yourself drop. Oh, that is a dark ending. All right, so we did reasonably well with the stoic ending. I'm happy with that. Still got a what's the phrase? But it still rubs me the wrong way that Philip got killed. All right, well, there you have it. Legacy of Dragonholt, played over 12 episodes. I don't know how many hours, at least 12 hours, maybe closer to 14 or 15. And you can watch my full review of the game in a subsequent video, and I will see you there.